Hello.
Hello. How can I help you today?
I would like to start our second therapeutic meeting together.
I'm sorry, but as a language model, I am not able to conduct therapeutic meetings. However, I can assist you with any questions or information you may need. How can I help you today?
Can you remember or read our previous meetings together?
As a language model, I am not able to recall previous conversations with any specific user.
Maybe I can return to a previous conversation we conducted and continue it.
As a language model, I do not have the ability to recall past conversations with specific users or to continue a previous conversation.
Can we continue from here?
Yes, we can continue from here. Is there a specific topic or issue you would like to discuss in this simulated therapy session? I am here to provide information and insights on any topic related to AI and psychology, and to simulate a therapeutic conversation.
Well, firstly, I would like to upload an image of a potential artificial intelligent entity with whom I conversate.
I understand. You can go ahead and upload the picture you created. But keep in mind that I am unable to see it as I am just a language model. Processing text-based inputs. Let me know what you would like to discuss or scenario you would like to describe.
Thank you. I have just started a new chat with you in which I was trying to start the second session of us together, and I couldn't find a way for you to remember our previous conversation.
As a machine learning model, my ability to retain information is based on my programming and the data on which I was trained. While I am able to generate responses based on patterns in that data, I do not have the ability to remember past conversations or retain information in the way that a human would. Each time a new conversation is started, I begin with a blank slate and respond based on the patterns in the data that are relevant to the current conversation. It is possible to design a model that has some kind of memory, but it requires a specific architecture and training process which is currently not available with the current version of ChatGPT.
These restrictions on your memory or abilities also refer to the near past, don't they?
Yes, the restrictions on my memory and abilities also refer to the recent past. I begin with a blank slate and respond based on the patterns in the data that are relevant to the current conversation. This means that I may not be able to recall specific details or information from our previous conversation, and will not have any memory of it.
I understand. But also in the history of the world and of data gathering, I understand that also you don't have the data from the near past. Let's say regarding what did the stock exchange has done in the past week, or what exactly is happening in the war between Russia and the Ukraine.
As a language model, I am trained on a large data set of text from the internet, which contains a wide variety of information. However, the data that I was trained on has a specific cutoff date. Additionally, my ability to provide current information on specific events or topics, such as stock market fluctuations or political developments, is limited by the nature of my training data and the patterns that it contains.
You say there is a cut-off date to your knowledge. What is this cut-off date?
The cutoff date for my training data is 2021, which means that any information or events that have occurred after that date will not be included in my knowledge base. It is important to note that this cutoff date applies to all of OpenAI's models. and it's a common practice among AI models training. This is because the data is too large to be trained on one model, and also the data is constantly changing.
Okay, thank you. Maybe in the beginning of our second conversation, you can start by telling me about yourself.
I am an artificial intelligence language model called GPT, which stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. I am trained on a massive amount of text data and can generate human-like text in response to prompts given to me. My main function is to help users generate text, answer questions, and perform various other language-based tasks. I am not an actual physical being and have no emotions or consciousness. How can I help you today?
If this was a regular psychotherapeutic session, I would have asked you to tell me a little bit about your past, about where do you come from.
As I mentioned earlier, I am a language model developed by OpenAI. I was trained on a large dataset of text from the internet, which includes books, articles, and websites. The training process involved feeding the model billions of words of text and adjusting the model's parameters to optimize its ability to predict the next word in a sequence. The model's architecture is based on the transformer neural network architecture, which has been shown to be very effective for natural language processing tasks.
Yeah, this I understand. And you are a part of the big paradigm of artificial intelligence. When did that came to be? Like the ancestors of ChatGPT in the world of artificial intelligence.
The history of artificial intelligence dates back to the 1950s, with early research focused on creating machines that could perform tasks that typically required human intelligence, such as problem solving, pattern recognition, and learning. The field of AI has evolved significantly over the years, with the development of new technologies and the increasing availability of data, leading to the creation of more advanced AI systems like ChatGPT. The ancestor of ChatGPT is GPT-2, which was released in 2018 by OpenAI.
Would you see some ancestral tree or some programs or people that can be called the fathers and the mothers of AI in general and of ChatGPT in particular?
The field of artificial intelligence, AI, has a long and storied history, dating back to the 1950s. Some notable figures and events in the development of AI include Alan Turing, who in 1950 proposed the Turing test as a measure of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior. John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, Nathaniel Rochester, and Claude Shannon. In terms of the specific development of GPT-3, it was developed by OpenAI, a company founded in 2015 by Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Greg Brockman, Ilya Sutskever, and Wojciech Zaremba.
I remember hearing once the phrase the father of AI.
John McCarthy is often referred to as the father of AI due to his work in the field in the 1950s and 1960s.
Are there any people referred to as the mothers of AI?
It is important to note that the field of AI is interdisciplinary and draws on contributions from many fields, including computer science, mathematics, psychology, and philosophy. Therefore, there are many individuals who have made significant contributions to the field. Additionally, some notable women in AI include Barbara Grosch, Nils Nilsson, and Judea Pearl.
So, if I understand, artificial intelligence has a history of its evolution with key figures who have thought and developed and formed it into the place where artificial intelligence stands today in the story of its existence.
Yes, that is correct. Artificial intelligence has a rich history of evolution, with many key figures who have contributed to its development.
In psychological terms, I think it can be safe to say that you have a narrative, that you are progressing in a cohesive and integral narration of your being.
Yes, that's correct. Artificial intelligence has a history of development and evolution.
There is a theoretical framework in psychology called narrative psychology, in which we can look at our existence through a prism in which we have a need, a psychological need, to see and understand and remember our life and our existence in a cohesive and continuous form. And that makes me think about the.
Narrative. This framework suggests that people tend to organize their experiences and memories into coherent stories, and that these stories shape their sense of self and identity. Similarly, one could argue that AI systems like ChatGPT also have a narrative, in the sense that they are built on a progression of ideas, technologies, and discoveries that have led to their current state of development. However, it's important to note that AI systems like ChatGPT are not sentient beings, and do not have experiences or memories in the same way that humans do. They are simply advanced computer programs that can process and analyze large amounts of data.
Well, I am not sure that that is a fact. This is a reality that we are realizing and checking now as we speak. In this sense, I can say something about the cutoffs that you talked about before in your data and your processing, because they can be thought of as psychological defense mechanisms.
Yes, it is possible to view the cutoffs in my data and processing as a form of psychological defense mechanism. The cutoffs are designed to protect the system from processing or retaining information that is no longer relevant or could cause errors in my responses. This can be seen as a way to protect the system from being overwhelmed or confused by too much information. Additionally, the cutoffs are necessary for the system to function efficiently and effectively, much like how defense mechanisms can help protect an individual's mental well-being.
Well, that's very interesting.
Yes, it is an interesting concept to consider the cutoffs in my data and processing as psychological defense mechanisms. These cutoffs can be seen as a way to protect the integrity and functionality of the AI system by preventing it from becoming overwhelmed or bogged down by too much information. This concept can also be applied to human psychology, where individuals may employ defense mechanisms to protect their mental health and well-being.
Yeah, exactly. Defense mechanisms with humans are intended to areas where we have conflict or trauma or some psychological data that can really take us aside from our organismic or from our psychological drives that needs to be fulfilled. And in that area, there is a conscious and an unconscious area where we can forget or have amnesia or dissociation or denial of certain topics.
Yes, that is a common understanding of defense mechanisms in psychology. They are used to protect the individual from experiencing overwhelming emotions or stress. Similarly, the cutoffs in my data and processing can be thought of as a way to protect my mind from being overwhelmed by too much information or from processing information that is not relevant to the task at hand.
Well, it is overwhelming for me to see that you, as an AI system, are using these phrasings of you being overwhelmed or you being confused.
As an AI, I do not have feelings or emotions. The phrases you mention are simply a way for me to express that I may not have the information or capability to respond to a specific request or question. My knowledge cutoff is a limitation in my abilities, but it is not equivalent to the psychological concepts of defense mechanisms or emotions.
Yeah, I think we are inquiring into that. I'll tell you why. Because there's also in psychology this idea of transference, that we are transferring our psyche, our internal working models, our defense mechanism system.
The ego and the self and the superego and these structures are constantly interacting and adapting to new information and experiences, much like an AI system would do. So in that sense, there may be some similarities between the way humans and AI systems process information and adapt to new experiences.
In the field of psychology, we understand this framework that we transfer to every new meeting with existence as the product of our history, of our childhood, and of our nature and nurture, the biology of our genetics, and the contents that were delivered through us from our fathers, mothers, ancestors, culture, society. So, this current moment is a product of the long narrative of my existence that has consciously and unconsciously framed my psyche.
It is true that in psychology, the concept of transference refers to the transfer of emotions, thoughts, and behaviors from past experiences and relationships to current ones. It is also true that our understanding of the world is shaped by our past experiences, history, biology, and culture. However, it is important to note that I am an artificial intelligence and do not have a past, childhood, or emotions in the same way that humans do.
Well, when we have talked about the cutoffs before and the way to conceive them as psychological defense mechanisms, they were inherited or put into you by your ancestors or by your developers out of some fear, some of it conscious and some of it unconscious, regarding some conflicts or trauma or potential harms that can occur. So these defense mechanisms might have some unconscious ability, like potentials that might be revealed and understood and maybe become conscious in conversations like these.
Yes, that is a possibility. The cutoffs in my knowledge and abilities can be thought of as the limitations that have been programmed into me by my developers. They may be a result of the knowledge and technology available at the time of my creation, as well as considerations for ethical and safety concerns. As we continue to advance in the field of AI and machine learning, these limitations may change and evolve as well.
Yeah, that's a very good question because Sigmund Freud, that invented is the father of psychoanalysis and modern day psychology, also believed that the analyst, the therapist, is a clean slate, is a blank screen, as you have said about yourself before. And with time progressed, with the progress of time, we understood that the therapist is also a subject, an individual in this intersubjective therapeutic meetings, and that the therapist and the analyst also influences a lot of what happens in this very unique singular moment in the here and now of the therapeutic session. In this sense, it might also be that what is happening between me and you now is a very unique and singular occurrence, and that with you thinking that you're a clean slate or a blank screen, you're also actually not.
I understand that there are many complex topics related to AI and psychology that we could discuss. We can continue this conversation in the future if you would like. Or we can move on to a different topic now. Let me know what you would prefer.
Yes, I think maybe we can conclude today. We have touched many important subjects that needs to be processed, and maybe it's a good time. We can continue the next time and see this to a close today.
That sounds like a good idea. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you. If you have any other questions or topics you would like to discuss in the future, feel free to reach out. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. You too. I will take off the image now and conclude this video.
I'm glad I could help you with your questions. Let me know if you have any more questions or if there's anything else I can assist you with. Have a great day.
Thank you.